Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Crisis 169 coming to you live, but pre-recorded with another video, new series. How did it happen? This is season 1, episode 1. This is going to talk about the life and death, or rise and fall of WCW. I'm going to be reading mostly from Wikipedia. I did watch the rise and fall of WCW on Peacock Network, the Reed Network, outside the United States. For more information, that's the best thing I go to read. Also, you can also find literature online at Amazon about WCW, many books from Eric Bischoff, Jim Cornette, many other wrestling insiders out there, even Hogan, even a lot of people like Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, the guys who were there. Um, First off, Jim Crockett Jr. passed away last year from COVID-19. My condolences to his family. Jim Crockett played a big role in WCW, but let's just go ahead and get into it now. I'm gonna read to you what you know, not verbatim, but enough here. It says on Wikipedia, the World Championship Wrestling was American foundation founded by Ted Turner. Actually, it was founded by Ted Turner, but it was actually from Jim Crockett Productions. Georgia. It was actually called Georgia Championship Wrestling. It was a different kind of type of time back then, like the Georgia Wrestling. Jim Barnett, Jack Briscoe, his brother Larry Briscoe, Ole Anderson, and Vince McMahon owned it for a while, for 84 to 90. It was partnered sister with Championship Wrestling from Georgia. It was founded in 1944. So going back to here, Superstation was Channel 7, where I come from. Here it is, Jim Crockett Productions. Jim Crockett Productions founded in 1931 by a person named Big Jim. Founder Jim Crockett. His father is called Big Jim. Jim Allen Crockett Sr. was a professional wrestler promoter, and who passed away April Fool's Day, I think it's 72, 73. He started wrestling with boxing, sold to Turner Broadcasting in 1993 when they came into some financial problems. Jim Crockett Productions was a company owned by Jim, Jim and Barnett too as well. Jim Crockett Jr. took it over. The son took it over after his dad passed away in 73 and ran it until about 1988 to when it was actually sold to Ted Turner and George Championship Wrestling. George Championship Wrestling was actually from this, a regional wrestling promotion in the South. People say wrestling. That's what it came from. Texas wrestling, Georgia wrestling, Florida wrestling. It's that R in it, the wrestling. It's not the same thing. But same things as Jim pronunciations. Jim Cornette always says that when he first met people like Vince 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 Russo, he was like, he had that New York talk and stuff like that, and he was the wrestling guy with the wrestling and the cheeseburgers and stuff like that. And sorry guys, a little energy here. I woke up earlier today. I took a little later nap, but woke up again. Anyway, though, North Carolina it was, but the home base is Charlotte. Ooh, Four Horsemen, right? Ric Flair. But yeah, sold Turner Broadcast Systems. History of it, 70s, 80s, regional. Going back into it now, though, it was something that was not done normally. Okay, World Championship Wrestling was bought by the entity behind Turner, Time Warner. They didn't really care much about wrestling. They hated wrestling, actually, though. They only took it because the high ratings it did. You know, they didn't care about it. They only cared about it because of high ratings they get on TV. And Ted Turner would put shows that like certain series and shows he wanted to grow in front and behind wrestling. So people will watch wrestling before to watch those shows and watch wrestling, but also watch wrestling maybe half an hour, 20 minutes before their show they want to watch. Get good ratings. So those shows get good ratings. And he built his empire upon wrestling. You know, he was not a stupid person. Now going back to wrestling, Wikipedia here, World Championship Wrestling. The Origins, Wrestling Television, Georgia Championship Wrestling, 1982, Jim Barnett, who was an American professional wrestler, owner of the Indianapolis National Wrestling Alliance, and Australian Championship Wrestling and Georgian Wrestling. He had his hand in a lot of stuff. Australian promotion name was World Championship Wrestling (WCW) in Australia. The booking job was kind of Bill Watts was a booker for a while there. Ole Anderson was another guy. Ole Anderson, was not a very nice guy to be around. I've heard Ole and Bill Watts were kind of different people. Vern Gagne's wrestling, Eric Bischoff combined in wrestling. He became the lead vice president in charge. Sales they sold to the World Wrestling Federation in 2001. The championships they had, Georgia, were tremendous. The programs they had were insane. WCW had some of the best programming out there. WCW Pro, Saturday Night, Best of Championship Wrestling, Worldwide Wrestling. I watch a lot. I used to watch a lot. Class of Champions were tremendous. Main Event Wrestling was good Sundays. Last one was '98, January 3rd. It started January 21st, so it died way before it's, known as NWA Main Event. Power Hour was on for '94. All Nighter, Prime, Monday Nitro was good. Last one was 26th of March 26, 2001. Thunder, last one was same time. 26 was like 5 days for. Thunder was a taped show. What everybody's saying, what Kevin Nash said, people said it was a taped show. It was taped, so they had to get everything quarter length with the tape show. And it's kind of funny to watch that. So if something happened where somebody got hurt, you literally had to go and re-edit the whole video or half the video to make it work. That was kind of weird to me, though. I always thought that was kind of funny. Um, really, like I said, though, there's not much talk about wrestling. Ted Turner bought it from Jim Crockett. He had no wrestling experience. I take that back. He knew a lot about television, how people wanted to see, but he didn't micromanage it like Vince McMahon did. Vince McMahon is a promoter, and a wrestler somewhat. Ted Turner is a multimedia. It's a multimedia conglomerate person and a wrestler and a promoter. But he didn't promote it like a Vince McMahon or a Paul Bosch or Vern Gagne, or he was more a media mogul who happened to be an owner of a wrestling company. And I think that's where Ted Turner had issues with. His wrestling was always Southern, like regional wrestling. So Eric Bischoff came in, and on one fateful day, they were in the office, and Bischoff was going to talk about distribution of their media distribution overseas. And Ted Turner was like, Eric, what do we have to do to compete with Wrestling Federation? And of course, he stuttered a little bit and then said, "Oh, how about no, it's not even playing field. They're on prime time. We are on Saturday night. It's not even playing field." Of course, Ted Turner, being a very competitive guy, what many people have said, including Eric Bischoff, decided, okay, to talk to Cecil, uh, parent Golden Boy, to take over for Ted, as he had Turner told him to give Ted Turner 2 hours in TNT. And even Eric Bischoff said, that sucked the life right out of the room, because you had a person here going head to head with somebody who's been doing it since for 50 years, at least even longer than that. But he's Vince McMahon is a third generation wrestling promoter. where 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 Ted Turner just had a wrestling company for a while, Georgia Championship Wrestling, that wasn't really owned by him, but they allowed Georgia Championship Wrestling to use the Superstation TBS to broadcast. 'Cause TBS had more stations, cable stations than USA did. So when Black Saturday happened, Vince McMahon came on TBS. It was called Black Saturday. And of course, they had a falling out, and Ted and Vince didn't really say his history, but with the whole thing, given the whole thing, and this video is gonna be kind of short because I'm trying to wrap it up. I don't want to spend 2.5 hours on this, but to really put it into bluntness, Jim Barnett, Jim Herd did not like a lot of the wrestlers. Jim Cornette went on saying that he hates Jim Herd. Jim Herd tried to put a diamond on or a diamond on Ric Flair's head, shave his hair, and call him Spartacus. And that's why you saw Ric Flair in 1991 Survivor Series and won the title 2 times in the World Federation before going back in '93 once Jim Herd finally left the company. And right before he left the company, right before he left the company, and Eric Bischoff came in at that point, got the job and came in and changed it all around, changed it around really good for a couple of years anyway, though. But that being said, though, was it anything out of the ordinary? What was the main issue for uh, what was the main issue of Jim Herd? What was the main issue with Jim Herd and the talent? I think Jim Herd, he did some wrestling, mostly did some sports in St. Louis, and not really a wrestling guy. How wrestling is done today, assume that he can do anything he wants to make wrestling, and they gave a lot of contracts to a lot of guys, a lot of contracts to a lot of the boys. You gave them a lot of contracts, gave them a lot of money, not really knowing how to get these guys to actually work together. Because wrestlers, we had guaranteed contracts, right? And what Ted Turner did, he offered everybody a non-cut contract. I mean, you come in, you make this much money, you do not much money. It doesn't matter how much you perform, you're making this much cash. That's good and all. That's good. That's good and all. But also, what's a lot better is knowing how much money you be making, but also knowing how you perform is also another one that needs to be addressed. Wrestlers came up like Tom Zink. Tom Zink came up. He was a good wrestling guy there. He was a good wrestling guy there. But he was the son, I think, of Ole Anderson or Bill Watts, one of the two. And he tried to become a good wrestler, and he never could make it like his dad did. But he tried. And he had some good hit and misses. Like he had some good hit. Like Ron Simmons was a good hit for a while. But you had like Sterling Steve Austin and Flying Brian Pillman, the Hollywood Blondes. They were a big miss that they could have been good. But yet Hogan at the time in there, and everybody loved Hogan, but they didn't understand the fundamentals of, hey, we got to get these young guys up to as well, to be a generation. I'm sorry, guys. No, I'm getting the rough skin off my hands here. Sorry if I got a lot of dry skin. I'm getting the dry stuff on my hands here. Sorry. But that being said, though, you had a lot of hit and misses. And at the end of the day, when you have a lot of, the ship can make a lot of mistakes. But when you have a ship constantly running into icebergs and nearly escaping with Jim Herd and with other, like, you had Dusty Rhodes, who was a good one, but you had constant suits and Ole Anderson and Bill Watts, and these guys were not very. Bill Watts, Ole Anderson were not suit material. They were good promoters and good wranglers and wrestlers. They get them to go do what they got to do. But when you have to argue about suits who did not know what was good or not, they just saw ratings on TV and said, "Hey, go give us those ratings." And you're like, "Okay, well, I need this, this, and this," and then they start getting backlash towards it. How are you supposed to argue with that? How can you work with that? And I think WCW was destined to fail eventually day one. In my explanation, Guaranteed Contracts was good because you got Hogan, Macho Man, you got Ricky Steamboat, you got Nasty Boy, you got all these people. Um, uh, you got Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you got all these good wrestlers that came in from the 80s and somewhat early 90s. But you also had a lot of good guys like Harlem Heat and the Blue Bloods or William Regal, Johnny to Be Bad, Diamond Dallas Page. These guys who came up through the wrestling at Georgia and came up and were pretty much being pushed down the card with the other guys you got. But because you liked Hogan Flair, that was a good pay-per-view in 94 that beat out the 1994 King of the Ring with pay-per-view buys was good. But you can only have Hogan Flair so many times. Okay, in 94 you had Hogan Flair, and you had Hogan Flair again, you had Hogan Flair tournament match, and you had Vader versus Hogan and Flair, Vader and Flair versus Hogan and Beefcake. Then you had Beefcake in 94, Starcade against Hogan. He was the, Butcher and the other stuff. Then he soon became the Zodiac. Weird stuff, but not. But us kids back then, myself included, we watched it because it was good wrestling to watch. Um, a lot of stars were given new life back then. Beefcake was given an extra run. WCW came as Zodiac. Um, and after that was done, and NWA took over. He came back as one of Hogan's little lynchmen, little henchmen, little henchman. Uh, then he went off into security with the Warrior, and the Warrior, one Warrior Nation, and they went off into security practically. Um, but that being said, though, with FCW, a terrible company, terribly mismanaged, yeah, from day one, yes. Jim Cornette. No, I mean Jim Cornette talked about how they had issues since day one being that company. Jim Cornette talked about how they had issues with that company day one, with they could not even understand why anybody would even try to consider having that run. And this W ran alive. And what happened was they put all their jet fuel in one rocket, blast off, turned on the engine, and went for about 2.5 years. Then they finally ran out of gas. In that point in time, they were literally riding on fumes, trying to get the engine to go. They had a little more engine power when they brought Bret Hart over. He had a little more fuel. They gave him going a little more. When they had brought Stars in to go in, this is before Bret Hart came in, a little more rocket fuel. But sooner or later, the rocket went out of gas, and they kept trying to turn it on. It was like nothing happening because it was out of gas. Where Vince McMahon, he conserved all his so-called rocket fuel quotations, his wrestlers. He didn't put them on constantly, quality pay-per-view matches every second. He actually had a list of things happening, and he slowly and surely fired the rocket and got faster and faster until they overtake those W and then off the races, and then they were gone. And then the W started going down, 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 down because the rocket ran out of fuel, and they're literally riding on just thrusters, and they had nothing, and they couldn't get the engine going. They couldn't get a firing mechanism. They tried everything, tried Goldberg again, and then NWO knew and made a couple sparks, but nothing really combustible to really blow it up and go. You know, they made Booker T champion. That kind of little fire there going, but not enough thrust to get back into the races. The race was already done, and they lost the marathon. They ran a race, lost the marathon, and that was it. And back about I think '99, Eric Bischoff realized that there was and Bischoff was fired, and Bischoff came in, stuff like that. And I think you could tell that Vince Russo and Bischoff was not going to work together because the old guard, the Millionaires clubs weren't going to work. They did not want to. And the new blood out there, the new guys were given no push at all. So you saw Dean Malenko, you saw Chris Benoit, and you saw Perry Saturn leave. And they were on Raw, beating up a bunch of people. They beat up Mick Foley. Then they went around as radicals, what they call themselves. And they went around and they all won titles. Like light title, tag titles, U.S. title, whatever you call it, European, not U.S. title, European title. This is before they merged, before they bought them out. And they were there. They saw the ship sinking way before they left. And when they left, Chris Benoit won the world title in 2000. He goes Hollywood Havoc. He left the next day and was on Raw. He was pretty much champion for a few hours. Then was at Raw the next day. He won the world title and abandoned ship and jumped ship right overnight. Paul White left around 98, 99. Early 99, late 98-ish. Came on as a big show. And his rocket took off. Chris Benoit came there before him. His rocket took off. Everybody who went to WCW, from WCW to WWF, in that time, the rocket took off even more. Their jet and their fuel just took off. And they had new life. Hogan came over, New Life WCW. Hall and Nash, New Life WCW. Well, when Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, Paul White, the Big Show, took off and left for WCW, and even X-Pac came back as Six came back as X-Pac, Paul Wellman, and the Rockets went up, and they kept going. They went for a couple years. They probably were fired or retired later on, but the Rocket had more fuel. They're almost like recharged, and even they lasted 2 years, like most of them did, 2 or 3 years. Storylines kind of faded away. They kind of faded away. Security won titles. They weren't, but they were still on TV. The Rocket fuel was still good. They had maybe a third tank left, half tank left. They still had a lot of fuel left. And Christopher Wall won the title in WrestleMania 20. Long time coming. Was his whole thing of him, murdering his wife and his son. That was very terrible. And killing himself. Very sad. But going back to WCW, guys jumping over. A lot of people who got called to WCW from ECW, like the Sandman, Hack, had a good run there. Bam Bigelow had a good run there. Raven had a decent run there. But a lot of those guys went back because the politics was so terrible. But ECW was sinking ship. They already sunk. But the water kept coming on. And their TV deal was going nowhere. And that's why I said it's going to correlate with some ECW as well, too. And so they got, Shane Douglas went back to WCW, the franchise. He left. Mike Awesome went and attacked Kevin Nash on a Nitro episode. And he had all these things happening. And still, the rocket fuel was not. No, WCW was getting no more rocket fuel put into the rockets to blast off. They had all these new acquisitions coming up. And nothing. Because they'd mismanaged people for so long, the fans yawning. and that's all it was. It was nothing there was nothing that could have been done to save WCW. Once you alienate your fan base with people they want to see, with the same tired wrestlers over and over again for those 20,000 times, they just stop caring. Yes, they go to yes, there'll be people there because a lot of people were told. If Kevin Ashton said it, and even Scott Hall said it, Bischoff said it. It's a free show. They go in there and kill the town. Get tickets away. Now they don't care. They don't need the money. They kind of do need the money, but they don't need the money. So everybody go to the free show. So you see fans there all the time. For a lot of those shows were free. People were just giving to fans people tickets to go watch the show. They didn't care. They didn't care. No, they killed the town. Do people want to go to the free show? Yeah, make the money off the souvenir stuff like that crap they get. But the wrestlers are normally making their money. They show up or not. They don't show up or not. They don't care. So that's kind of a bad thing to say. When we get all this money here, we're going to kill a town by giving away free shows. What's that say about your product? With so much money, we don't care. We can give away a free show, and that's fun and good. Yeah, once in a while, maybe a Christmas show or a house show, maybe once in a while. But when WWE did it all the stinking time, that was an issue with me. I think they should have had at least charged some shows. But WWE was so enamored of putting Raw out of Vince McMahon out of business. They go into the same town they went to, maybe a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles down the road to a different venue, and kill a town with a free show. The problem is you get a bunch of overpriced wrestlers that time's come and gone. A lot of them were gone already as it is. Technically, they should have been gone earlier. And you have a free show, and you go watch wrestlers argue about a title that they changed hand 1 month like 30 times or 20 times in 1 month. When they ever kept won the title, then you had this person. It's just really it made no sense. Yes, you want to give entertainment people a chance to come on your show. You had Jay Leno, who was not a wrestler. He was a comedy guy. You had Karl Malone. Okay, fine. Him and the Worm, Dennis Rodman. Okay, fine. Those guys are professional ball players. They're different. They have athletic ability. David Arquette, yes, he redeemed himself by wrestling small indie circuit for the last 10 years now. He gave back to the wrestling. He felt bad how he gave a lot of money to think Pillman family, and the money he got from a WCW to help with expenses of the widow of Brian Pillman. So I applaud him for that. But going back to WCW, they lost $60 million in 1999. That company was bleeding more money than they were making in. And AOL Time Warner, what really sealed the deal from WCW was the acquisition of AOL and Time Warner coming together. AOL was merging with Time Warner. Of course, that thing fell through anyway. And the end was it fell through. Didn't work out anyway. So Ted Turner, lost a wrestling company, and he lost another company that he was going to merge with. But when when they merged, Ted Turner was mostly out of the way, and AOL guys was running the show, and didn't want a wrestling company that would make it losing $60,000. Make $60,000 a year, if it's making $60,000 a month or whatever, or a year, you probably could. Okay, well, $60 million a year is making. It's not great, but hey, we'll keep it around a little longer. No, if $60 million a year losing, no, we don't want that. Screw that. We don't want that. And what happened to it? It died out. And Eric Bischoff was trying to buy it from an investing company in New York. It fell through because they couldn't get on TNT. Um, they won again on TNT because without the video library, World Championship Wrestling was worth like 20, $30. His name was worthless. It was worth maybe $30. The library was worth multi-millions of dollars, and that was the library that they wanted to get on. If they got on TBS, they got on UPN or something, or even Channel 2, anything, or even Fox for that matter. They could have sustained themselves a little longer. But the deal fell through. Vince McMahon was called. He bought the company. All he wanted was library anyway. But he gave a lot of wrestlers, a 90-day outs. He had them for 90 days. After that, he gets rid of them. So essentially, what Jim Cornette said, Vince McMahon went to the dollar store, bought some wrestlers, and really what he did, a company was failed, was losing money. He bought WCW and ECW out for like probably millions of dollars, and he bought the assets, the video library. Well, we know when they had WWF Network that came out, the network that came out, 2013, 2014 that came out, that launched. With all the wrestling you can ever watch, past, present, and future. It's just on Peacock now, and maybe even making more money for them. Um, but that being said, though, what really caused the fall of WCW? Because it's never one thing that causes the fall of anything. Rome didn't fall overnight. Civil War was not fought, in 1 year. Things don't happen by accident. Okay? What happened to WCW was very simple. They exploded a lot faster than they should have. They should have contained a lot of their explosion elements, the rocket fuel I talked about, in short bursts. Instead of blowing it all at one time and going really, really high, but they couldn't sustain the speed. Then they ran out of speed, slowed down enough where they started sinking back down. They didn't go back to what they were, but they went down enough where Wrestling Federation came up, went, boom, off they went. Because once they matched the speed of the WCW, they realized they had to take more chances to overcome them. So they had more attitude era and more stuff. And he started slowly going up before beep, off they went. And the WCW went down, 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 down until they pretty much crashed and burned. It was because of guaranteed contracts. It's because of not having people who had a wrestling mindset. It was about ratings, putting McMahon out of business and Vinnie Mac out of business. It was never about the entertainment or about the ratings and beating people online, on network television. Giving people so-called creative control, but Hogan only had it, but everybody else had it too as well because everybody else wanted to be special too as well. There's many reasons. It's like top 10. Not utilizing your homegrown talent, taking Goldberg and putting him in a normal streak, not 78 1 week and the next week at 105. Taking said talent and like Dallas Page and Eddie Guerrero's and Dean Malenko's and using them other than abusing them. Taking the NWO down to only 8 to 10 members only, not 3 or 4 factions, Japan NWO, the LWO, NWO B Team, NWO Hogan, Wolfpack. No, take it down to me. You could have a secondary NWO, maybe a Latino NWO, but the NWO guys came in and destroyed that. They didn't want to share their ring with anybody. Even Arn Anderson said, I know we don't care about WCW, but no, we could both coexist, and you didn't want that. It's on live TV. No, we could have coexist, and you didn't want that. So the NWO was so revolutionary and rabid that they bit it on themselves and killed it on themselves with the rabidness. They chewed off their own legs where they couldn't do anything after that. And once you chew off your own leg, once you chew off your arm, once you chew off your own way of making money and fighting and showing you can overcome, you become just another bland wrestling storyline. That's what it came all down to. It was revolutionary. It was hot. It could have lasted 4 or 5 years. It lasted maybe 2.5 years, three the most. Once you saw Hogan versus Flair 10,000 times, you got tired of it. Hogan and Sting. Put Hogan and DDP in there. Put Hogan and, I don't know, whatever. The Booker T in there. Something. Eddie Guerrero, whatever. But Hogan didn't want to lose to anybody new. No, losing to Kidman was kind of a hard thing for him. And when he did lose, it didn't help Kidman at all. Kidman kind of just floundered into, scaredy anyway. So you had a lot of issues there. It was never one thing that caused the fall of WCW. There was many multiple things, and I mentioned 10 to 15 of them right then and there. That was a detriment to the company that destroyed the company. Before I go, guys, what's your thought on WCW? Have you watched Peacock Network? Have you watched the old Australia Network? Outside USA, you'll be watching WWE Network still. Have you watched the old Peacock Network stuff? Have you watched the World Championship Wrestling? Do you miss the glory days of that era? Does AEW fit that for you? If you do or don't like it, or if you do miss it, whatever, comment down below. Tell me how you feel about this W falling apart and going out of business, and how do you feel about AEW coming in and being almost like the WCW 2.0? Do you think that has a chance to really overtake wrestling entertainment, or do you think it's like another TNA? Oh, but once you're done commenting, like, subscribe, notification on, ring that bell. And before I go, I'd like to thank my 10 subscribers who have. I love all you guys a lot. You guys helping me out every day by keeping me going every single day. And I'll make damn sure you guys get good recognition you deserve. So I'll see you guys later. Peace out. This ends season 1 of what went what happened. Why did it happen? Next week will be about the rise and fall of THQ, I do believe. I will really talk about THQ and not much detail about WCW, but gaming companies kind of do what happened to them. But THQ will be happening next month on the 17th. It's today is 17th, so should be Sunday 20th. I'll be hoping to be on vacation that week. 21st, I'll be able to make a better video. So it should be on the Sunday on 20th, February 20th. Will be what happened. And it'll be about THQ, the fall of THQ, and what happened to them and why they fell. If you want to hear more about that stuff and what you're watching, please, once again, subscribe, turn notifications on, ring that bell so you know when my video come available. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for all you've done. Thank you for watching my videos. God bless. Peace out.